while we're waiting for people, can you tell me a little bit more, unless this is going to be your spiel when you start, but tell me a little bit more about what your guys' plans is for like the workshop and for advising the non-traditional students?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty simple. Basically, non-trad students will sign up, so we have a form for them. And then we want this to be like pretty flexible and doable. Once, we've done this workshop and people are like given the proper tools for like how to provide the feedback, what kind of feedback to provide, what we should be emphasizing, then they'll get like a weekly email with just like a reminder of how to sign up. And I'll also explain all this at the end too.
For sure.
And yeah,
Cool.
they'll sign up and then they'll have their like one that I'll explain.
Very cool.
I think we could probably start in like another minute.
Yeah.
A couple people told me that they wouldn't be able to make it, so
All good. That's what the recording's for. Because did he say?
I said because it was like it was one of those
Lisa, I think you're
like
unmuted. Actually, I think that this is about right for attendance.
Do you want to go ahead and start, or do you want me to start and then you're going to do your spiel at the end? What would you prefer?
I'll do my general spiel at the end, but sorry, I'll do my general spiel at the beginning and then talk about the structure of the program at the end.
Perfect.
So with that being said, thank you everyone for coming. Really excited that you're here. So the whole program is to help non-traditional students who are applying this cycle with their personal statements and or their experience or work and activity section. So it's pretty hard once you've graduated and like left your pre-medical program to get that assistance. And especially if you are someone who identifies as like represented or like with impactful experiences. So I'm really excited that you've all decided to volunteer and very, very grateful. Thank you. I'll let Alyssa take it from here.
All right. Thanks, Willie. And thank you guys so much for all being here. I'm super excited that you guys are volunteering to do this. I think it's really wonderful, like Willie said, especially for those non-traditional students, underrepresented first generation who don't necessarily have those resources. It's so important that we kind of give back and help them as much as we can. So I love that you guys are all here. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, sorry.
All good. Take your time.
How does one? Can you try that? Or can you try again?
Yep, there we go. Perfect. Okay, give me a second here. I think if I do that, exit this. Okay, can you guys see my slide deck? Cool. Is it small? Does it need to be bigger? Or does it look okay?
It's full screen.
Cool, 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 cool. Okay. Give me 2 more seconds. I just want to make sure that I've got everything I need here. Since most of you guys are not on camera, I'm moving your faces over here on the side. There we go. Okay. So before I go ahead and get started, please know that throughout this entire session, ask questions, right? This is for you guys. This is to help you better understand how you can advise those students who are looking to apply, particularly in this upcoming cycle. I put together this deck within the last 24, 48 hours or so, and doing my best to really think about what information will be crucial for them to know and for you to know so that you can share with them. But if I've gone in a different direction than you were hoping, or if there's stuff that you would like me to expand upon, clarify, whatever you need, just let me know. I will go ahead and find the chat box. I think I've got it over here. I'll pull up my chat box, but feel free to, turn your microphone on and just share questions and feedback throughout the session. So without further ado. Okay, so we've got a good 90 minutes together. I'm not sure we'll use all 90, but just in case, we've got that time. And we're really going to focus on topics to improve your feedback for those prospective med students and assist them in their journey to medical school, right? So we will start with an overview of holistic review, followed by exploring the AAMC pre-medical competencies, as well as RMC specific attributes for competitive applicants. So really helping you guys understand what medical schools, particularly RMC, are looking for in strong applicants. We will then discuss the AMCAS application, and we're really going to focus on the work and experiences section, as well as the personal statement section, as Willie mentioned. And so we'll highlight effective ways that applicants can showcase their strengths and really craft compelling essays that demonstrate those AAMC competencies. And then finally, we will briefly review the SCOTUS decision and how we can better advise non-traditional students, first-generation students, underrepresented pre-medical students in wake of this decision. So by the end of this workshop, each of you will recognize that integral role that holistic review plays in the admissions process and the importance of applicants crafting that well-rounded application. Understand the AAMC competencies and the importance of applicants showcasing these competencies throughout their entire application. Develop a clearer understanding of the qualities sought by RMC in competitive applicants. Gain a deeper understanding of the elements that contribute to effective work and activities essays, as well as learn the principles and techniques that are necessary to help our applicants develop an impactful personal statement. And then, as I mentioned, last but not least, understand the recent SCOTUS decision and explore different strategies for advising our underrepresented non-traditional first-generation students accordingly. So before we can effectively advise and offer feedback to pre-medical students, it's really essential to understand the concept of holistic review and its significance in med school admissions. I think most of you guys still have your cameras off, but maybe use the raise your hand feature. Can anybody tell me if they've heard of holistic admissions? You guys all kind of heard of that term when applying to med school, right? Okay, I only see 2, 3, 4. Okay, there we are. Okay, I figured more of you guys have heard of this. It's pretty common. But then again, for those who have been out of school for a while, perhaps it's not. But I really want to go over the importance of understanding this and how it plays a role in our process. So as you guys know, as the name implies, holistic review considers the whole applicant, right? The entire applicant. By definition, holistic review is a flexible, mission-driven approach that considers each applicant's experiences, attributes, and academic metrics, as well as the value they would contribute to a program's goals, their learning environment, and the practice of medicine. So that is the definition of holistic review. The image you see on the right-hand side, that is the AAMC EAM model. So experiences, attributes, and metrics. And this is what captures several of the different dimensions, both visible and invisible, that might make up an individual and things that we consider as we review applicants holistically. So on the outer layer of that wheel, you've got the experiences, right? This category encompasses the path that the applicant has taken to get to where he or she is today. Examples of this would include being perhaps the primary caregiver for an ill family member, any type of distance traveled, employment history, research experience in a healthcare setting, etc. Right? So these are all the different experiences that an applicant could potentially have. Then we've got the attributes section. This category includes the applicant's personal characteristics and their demographic factors, right? So things like empathy, resilience, first-generation college student, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, intellectual curiosity, and more, right? So their personal attributes. And then, of course, in the center, you've got the metrics. So this is what, of course, includes your numeric information about an applicant's academic performance. So most notably, you've got the GPA, the MCAT scores, and grade trends. So that is the EAM model in a nutshell. But why is all of this important? So firstly, holistic review is crucial because it enables schools to enhance diversity on our campus, right? Now, I am sure all of you guys are well aware of the many different benefits that diversity brings to a med school class. So not going to delve into that further because we would be here all day. But what I do want to emphasize is that if you're planning to advise pre-med students, it's really essential to remind them that med schools employ this holistic approach, right? Applicants really need to understand the significance of presenting a well-rounded application. So that's one of the first things that you are going to be looking for and kind of advising these students is really making sure that their application is well-rounded, right? A competitive application isn't solely defined by strong grades and the MCAT scores, right? It also encompasses so many other things like your medically related experiences, community service, teamwork, leadership, right? You know all those things. So really important just to understand that holistic review, having a well-rounded application, that is a big part of our process and something that pre-medical applicants will want to make sure that they have within their application. So further emphasizing the importance of having that well-rounded application are the AAMC competencies. So another question for you guys. I see, Grace, you've got your hand up, so pause on that. But real quick, before I answer Grace's question, has anybody heard of these AAMC competencies before? Is this something that's somewhat familiar to any of you? Okay, a few. Okay, good to know. Oh, we got a few more. Great, great, great. Oh, Grace, your hand never went. You're good. You don't have a question. Okay, perfect. So, AAMC competencies. This is what, for those of you who don't know, the AAMC competencies represent the different skills and abilities that were identified the AAMC as necessary for success in medical school and beyond, right? So the things that we're going to talk about right now, the 17 different competencies, these were identified as essential for success in both med school and the medical profession, right? So it would be important that those applicants or pre-medical students that you're working with understand these competencies, know what they are, have started to build upon them, and then, of course, demonstrate them in their application, right? So before applying, pre-meds should actively seek experiences that are going to nurture the development of these different competencies, right? But then even further during the application process, you want to make sure that those pre-meds are integrating these competencies into all components of their application. So when you're assisting any of those pre-med applicants, I really encourage you to encourage them to assess their proficiency in each competency, right? Prompt them to go through the 17 different competencies you see on the screen here and have them think about and really identify the different competencies that they've mastered and perhaps those that require some further development, right? So have them do a quick assessment on where they're at with these different competencies. That way, if they find that there are certain competencies that need some additional effort put into them, they can add those experiences that are going to help them demonstrate and grow those competencies so that they can put them on their application, right? I also want you to guide them how they can effectively highlight each competency throughout their application, right? So it's one thing to have the experiences and to have mastered these different competencies, but it's a completely other thing to effectively highlight this throughout the application, right? So it's crucial to emphasize that simply writing about a proficiency isn't quite enough. You need to have them illustrate it, right? With real life experiences and examples. We don't want them to tell the admissions committee. We want them to show them, right? So later in this presentation, after we go through a few more things, we're really going to dive into some of those effective strategies for them to demonstrate and showcase those experiences. But for right now, I just want you guys to really understand that it's essential that these competencies are demonstrated throughout the entirety of their application. And these competencies are things that they've started to work on and really hone and master. All right, I'm going to pause, see if we have any questions so far. Okay. So alongside those AAMC competencies that we just spoke about, I would really like to review the specific attributes that RMC specifically seeks in competitive applicants. And if there's anybody on this call that has ever done a session with me, you're probably quite familiar with all of this and this little spiel. So first and foremost, RMC needs to ensure that applicants have the academic foundation to be successful in our fast-paced, rigorous curriculum. So to achieve this, we do require specific courses and set minimum GPA and MCAT thresholds. So in order for applicants to proceed in our process, they do have to meet what you see here on the screen. Now, should you find yourself working with a student who perhaps doesn't meet these academic minimums, first of all, you can always refer them to me. If they have questions or there is specific advice that you want to give them, but you don't necessarily know how to, you can always refer them and connect them with me or Jill. But what you can also do regarding academics, and many of you may have done this yourselves, is take a special master's program or a post-bac program, right? Because these programs are specifically designed to help applicants improve the academic component of their application. So what you need to know here is simply that what is on the screen here is what we require academically of applicants to move forward through the process. Now, in addition to the academic foundation, we seek applicants with strong communication and teamwork skills, community service orientation, clinical experience, and leadership abilities. So applicants that you're working with who are really considering Rush Medical College need to ensure that they've effectively demonstrated each of these qualities on their application. In addition to all of those AAMC competencies, this is what we at Rush are really focused on. And now, while none of these are more important than the others, I do want to take a moment to briefly discuss specifically what we mean by clinical experience. While shadowing is a great place to start, we really want to see applicants who have hands-on experience working with patients. So roles like EMT, med scribe, CNA, phlebotomist, right? Things where and roles where you are directly involved with patients. Those are great options to encourage and to have students have on their application. This is really critical. Again, not necessarily more important than any other aspects of the application because it is holistically reviewed, but we do want to ensure that applicants have a true understanding of what it means to be a doctor, to work with patients, and really work in the healthcare field in America today. And I meet so many applicants who have shadowing experience and numerous hours of shadowing, but they don't take it the step further to get the hands-on clinical skills. And so I want to make sure you understand how critical that piece of healthcare exposure is for us at Rush Medical College. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of the different competencies and experiences that really contribute to a strong application, let's talk about those strategies for the applicants to showcase these throughout their application, right? So let's start with the AMCAS and work activities section. As you guys likely remember, the work and activities section of the AMCAS application serves as a summary of the different extracurricular activities that an applicant has engaged in during and after college, right? So all of their extracurriculars. This is really important because, again, as you guys know, it really offers applicants a platform to articulate how these experiences influence their aspiration to become a physician. So in general, when applicants write their activity and experience essays, each of their experience, they should include the following. So this is what I want you to really think about when you're working with applicants and you're going through their different work and activities sections. You want to make sure that they are including all of these things below, right? So if it is not obvious by the title what the role is or the organization is, really make sure that they include a sentence, some sort of description about what the organization is, their goals and their mission, to give a little bit of context about their experience, right? You also want to make sure that each essay details the applicant's role. So emphasize their specific responsibilities as well as the impact that they made. Additionally, these essays they don't have to be, but oftentimes will be narrative in nature. So you can always encourage applicants to really incorporate memorable anecdotes, patient interactions, and particularly any insights gained from these experiences. Similarly, these essays should be reflective, right? So you'll really want to make sure that the applicants are highlighting how each experience enhanced their suitability for the med field or contributed to their personal development. Things that they could consider talking about, maybe some challenges that they faced through the experience, their impact on the perception of the medical field based on the experience, and of course, any lessons learned. So really make sure they're reflecting on how each experience influenced their approach to patient care and healthcare, and then really articulate those insights that they gained in their intention to apply to medical school. Now, work and activities section essays should also highlight leadership skills whenever possible. I know you guys know that there is a designated category for leadership, but applicants can always showcase additional instances where they demonstrated leadership qualities through these experiences as well. So don't feel like they can't talk about leadership if it's not in a leadership category. By all means, have them and encourage them to emphasize leadership throughout all aspects of their application. If feasible, applicants could also be encouraged to include any awards or recognitions that they've received for their work, because of course, this will enhance their credibility and really add some value to their application as well. So again, doesn't necessarily need to be indicated as such using the categories, but they can still talk about it within their descriptions. Another big one is articulating the impact that it had, right? So the impact on the broader communities and the effect that the activity had on the application or the applicant. That one's a big one. And then a couple more. We want them to establish connections to the future, right? So reflections should offer insight into the type of physician that the applicant aspires to become, right? So how did these experiences contribute to their aspirations? And last but not least, always encourage them to include that personal touch, right? Let their humanity shine through, really feature their strong personal voice. Showcase who they are throughout all of these descriptions and experiences. Now, I know I listed a ton right now, and not every single essay needs to include all of these things, right? But these are some of the things that you can encourage them to consider and really reflect on when writing the essay components. Okay, another really big thing that I want to emphasize, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's crucial for applicants to demonstrate their competencies rather than just talking about them, right? So we want them to show, not tell, right? So, for example, instead of saying, I volunteered at a homeless shelter, right? That doesn't give us much. An applicant can really showcase their skills, really demonstrate them by saying something more like, at the homeless shelter, I organized donation drives, prepared meals, provided direct support, fostered a sense of community, et cetera, right? That's really showcasing what they did. So demonstrating rather than simply describing is a crucial aspect of the application process and can really significantly enhance the impact that the application has, right? Because we on the admissions team, we only know what you tell us, right? And so if you don't tell us everything, if you don't demonstrate everything, we won't know. And so I really want you guys, when working with these students, really stress the importance of this approach of showcasing rather than simply telling. All right, as you guys all know, applicants can choose 3 most meaningful experiences within their work and activities section. So when it comes to selecting their most meaningful experiences, applicants should really prioritize those that had a profound impact on their personal growth and development, or perhaps were particularly transformative or impactful, right? So encourage applicants to reflect on different instances when they felt like they were truly making a difference, or maybe experiences that really significantly shifted their perspective or their priorities. Ultimately, the most meaningful experiences are going to be those that played a pivotal role in shaping who the applicant is today. And so if you're ever working with a pre-med student who needs a little bit of guidance on selecting their most meaningful experiences, I've written down a few questions you can encourage them to consider that may help them better determine which experiences to choose, right? So take some time with them, have them reflect, what work or activity are you most proud of? When have you displayed the strongest leadership role? When did you exhibit competencies in teamwork? Are there any experiences that include a strong emotional angle? Any of these experiences, how you decided your unique career path? Any of these experiences unusual in a way that can really catch people's attention? What have you participated in for the longest amount of time, right? Really just have them think about some of these questions, have them reflect on their previous experiences, and hopefully this can help them determine some of the best experiences to highlight within their application. All right, real quick, before we move on to personal statements, I want to go through a few pitfalls you should ensure applicants avoid. And now I know going through these, they're going to seem like they're absolutely common sense, but it's not necessarily the case for some of our pre-medical students. So it's always helpful if you see any of these things, let's advise them to perhaps change their approach or remove them altogether, right? So when advising pre-meds, please ensure that they avoid using experiences from high school on their application, right? Unless it's something that they perhaps started in high school and they continued it through undergrad, that's different, right? But if it's something simply that they did in high school, especially if they've been out of undergrad for a while, let's not include that on the application. Let's focus on what's more recent. Want to avoid including anything for which they received course credit, right? That's going to be on their transcripts. We don't need to reiterate, rehash any part of our CV. So don't waste up valuable space talking about stuff that is in another area of your application. Similar to the first thing I said, don't include any primary or secondary school achievements, right? That's going real far back. You'd be surprised, people do include it. But again, unless it's incredibly impactful, maybe unique, special, or something that carried through, really avoid having students include anything that was prior to undergrad. Should be common sense, but we really don't want students to include anything unethical or immoral. Here's a big one. Make sure applicants do not include anything they can't elaborate on during an interview. I cannot stress the importance of this because a lot of applicants will perhaps include things that they weren't really all that involved in, maybe over-exaggerate their involvement. So you want to make sure that anything that's going on that application, it's honest, it's truthful, and it's something that they can confidently and passionately talk about in an interview. If they can't, don't put it on the application. Another thing you want to encourage them to avoid is really just repeating themselves across multiple experiences or different areas of the application, right? As you guys know, the characters that you have, everything, every space, it's really valuable. It's limited. And so we want to maximize this to our best ability. So don't waste up precious space repeating information or reiterating the same thing, right? So really try and have them avoid that. And then similar, using complete and very perfect phrases and wordings that are directly going to appear in their personal statement, right? We do not want to copy and paste throughout the application. So yes, students can talk about experiences in multiple places, but let's not do a copy and paste. Really kind of encourage them to avoid that. Okay. Questions about the AMCAS application and experiences? Okay, let's move on to personal statements then. So you guys know this, but the personal statement serves as the applicant's platform to narrate their journey, right? Who are they? What life experiences have shaped them so far? What pivotal moments led to their decision to pursue medicine? So if and when helping a pre-med with their personal statement, it's important to remember that this list that I'm going to go through right here, this isn't exhaustive and it's not a strict, perfect template that you need to adhere to or they need to adhere to, but rather it's a guide to really help pre-med students craft their personal statements effectively. Okay, so first and foremost, encourage students to use their personal statements as a platform to express their unique voice and tell their story authentically. This is one of the few places where you really have an opportunity to showcase who they are as individuals and really highlight the experiences that have shaped them. There is so much data and numbers on the application, right? And so when you have the opportunity to use your voice or when they have that opportunity, really encourage them to take advantage of it. Another thing you want to encourage is having them really delve into their different motivations for pursuing medicine, right? So why do they want to become a doctor? What life events or experiences have influenced this decision? It's essential that they convey their passion and their conviction for this career path, right? So that is a big part of the personal statement. Another thing you can encourage is for them to reflect on their different patient care experiences and then really select maybe one or two impactful instances that they would like to discuss, right? So they don't need to, once again, rehash all of the experiences that are on their application, but rather have them pick a couple of really impactful ones and write about those. How did those experiences solidify their desire to pursue medicine? And what insights did they gain about the profession? Don't forget to also emphasize the importance of showcasing strengths, right? It's the personal statement. You want to sell yourself, right? Showcase the strengths. So really encourage them to highlight what makes them a strong candidate for med school, right? What are the unique qualities that they will bring to the classroom, and have them include that in their personal statement. And then lastly, this isn't necessary, but should students feel the need to, they should absolutely feel empowered to address any gaps, challenges in their application, anything else that they want to address, right? So whether it's addressing academic setbacks, maybe personal struggles, transparency can really provide valuable context for the admissions committee. Now, I don't ever want to see applicants trying to really, explain too much on their application, right? We don't want to point out negatives, but if there's anything that needs to be addressed or discussed, it is absolutely okay to address it, explain the situation, really talk about what you learned from it, how you've grown from it, and then move on. Okay, so they should absolutely feel empowered to address any gaps or challenges, but don't focus on it too much, linger on it too much. Okay, shifting focus. Let's take a moment to discuss the SCOTUS decision. As you guys know, on June 29th, back in 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court or SCOTUS ruled that colleges and universities can no longer consider race as a specific basis in admissions, right? So what does this mean? While race is no longer a factor in the admissions process, there are still a number of ways that underrepresented students can approach their application to enhance their chances of acceptance to med school in light of this decision. So not all hope is lost. There are things that we can and should advise students to really include in their application in light of this decision. And so, a couple of those things. Applicants can and should be encouraged to share how their background has influenced their career goals, right? So encourage applicants to really articulate all throughout their application how their background and their identity have shaped their career aspirations in medicine. There is no rule saying applicants cannot talk about their background and their identity and how this shaped their life, right? Encourage that. Applicants can and should embrace their diversity on campus or in the workplace, right? Because in doing so, they'll be able to talk about it and showcase it in their application, right? So really encourage applicants to convey confidence and pride in their background, right? This will help them illustrate how their unique experiences have influenced their journey towards a career in medicine, right? Again, so really embrace their background and have pride in that, talk about it, illustrate it, and then relate it to how it's influenced your journey towards a career in medicine. Another thing that applicants can and should do is volunteer in medically underserved communities. Now, applicants should be doing this regardless, but we really want to encourage particularly those students who are underrepresented, underserved, to get back and give back to their community and volunteer in those medically underserved communities, because having that on their application can really substantiate their commitment to serving medically underserved communities, right? Because they're already actively engaging in this service prior to applying. So then they can talk about it in their application and perhaps relate it to their personal experience. And then last but definitely not least, applicants can and should be encouraged to showcase how their background and experiences have shaped their journey to medicine by completing the other impactful experiences section. So the other impactful experiences section, this is relatively new, and it was designed to provide admissions officers with a snapshot of an applicant's lived experiences. And it also allows applicants the opportunity to provide any of that additional context that we've been talking about the challenges that they may have faced and experienced during their lives, right? So this question is really intended for those applicants who have had really impactful life experiences, or maybe faced and overcome different significant life challenges, right? This gives them that opportunity to talk about it. And so on the right-hand side, you can see a couple of examples. These were developed specifically by the AAMC to really help applicants reflect on their experiences and consider whether or not they'd like to complete this portion of the application and things that they might want to include. So some things that we can encourage applicants to consider, things like family background, right? Did you serve as a caretaker of a family member, or do you identify as a first-generation college student? That is going to have impact on your path to medicine. Community setting. Did you grow up in a rural area? Maybe it had food scarcity, high poverty, high crime rates. Maybe it had a lack of access to healthcare, right? This is an impactful experience. Talk about it. Financial background. Were you raised in a low-income family? Perhaps you needed to work to support your family while growing up. Another really impactful experience. Education. Maybe there were limited educational opportunities where you grew up. Maybe there was limited access to advisors or counselors to really help guide you academically. This right there is going to have a huge impact on an applicant's path to medicine. And then, of course, there are any other life circumstances that were perhaps beyond the applicant's control that really presented different challenges that they had to overcome, right? The list on the right-hand side, that is not exhaustive. There are a lot of different things that applicants could include in this section. So really encourage them to utilize this section and take advantage of it, right? Encourage these applicants to complete this section, because this is what allows them to provide the admissions committee really with invaluable insights into their unique journey and path to medicine, specifically any hardships or impactful experiences that they've faced. So this right here, this is key, particularly in wake of the SCOTUS decision. All right, one more thing. Before we wrap, I'd really like to leave you with one final piece of advice. And again, for any of you guys who have ever attended my information sessions before, you will recognize this as my signature ending, because it revolves around one of the most, if not the most, critical questions that every applicant should ask themselves is, when should I apply? And the answer to that, the best time to apply to medical school is when you are ready. So when advising pre-medical students, it's really crucial to emphasize this vital message right here. The most effective way to gain acceptance to medical school is by ensuring you have built a strong application prior to submission, right? And so if necessary, encourage those applicants to have that tough conversation with themselves. And in the wise words of Taylor Swift, are you ready for it? If not, have them take that time to really address any areas that need improvement and wait to hit that submit button until they are truly ready and truly prepared. This right here, this is by far the best thing that any medical student can do for their application to med school. Okay. Questions. What can I answer for you guys? Gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen and see if there's anything I can answer. Anything I can further elaborate? Is this the information you were hoping for, thinking that you would need in order to go into these advising sessions feeling confident? What else can I share or answer for you guys?
Hi, Lisa. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this workshop for us. I have a question. So for those that are reapplicants, when should I address that if they have to? And is there a way for us to better help tell that story?
Yeah, great question. So first and foremost, you guys know this, but if an applicant has to reapply, let them know that they're not alone. It's not the end of the road. So many applicants do apply multiple times to med school, right? You guys know that. It's a competitive process. There are so many qualified applicants for a limited number of spots. Sometimes they have to reapply because their application really wasn't ready. Sometimes, unfortunately, students do just get lost in the numbers though, because we get 13,000 AMCAS applications annually. 13,000. So if you ever need a reminder, guys, especially you're on MSK right now, M1s, if you ever need a reminder, if you're feeling like you're not supposed to be here, you absolutely are. Because of 13,000 AMCAS applications, we picked you guys. Okay, keep that in mind. But what I was saying before is that if they have to reapply, it's not the end of the world. Now, what they don't want to do and what you want to ensure that they don't do is reapply with the same exact application, right? Because if you submit the same exact application, chances are you're going to get the same exact result. So what students need to be doing between hitting that submit button is continuing to do things that are going to improve their application. So in early May, when they hit submit, there's no guarantee that they're getting that acceptance letter. And so just in case, always encourage them to keep up their hard work. That way that when the next May rolls around, they won't be caught off guard and they will have already spent the last 12 months improving their application. So that's first and foremost, is really make sure that you're improving the application. Now, this is where it might get hard to help advise students as far as reapplicants and what they should focus on. There is no one size fits all answer to this question, right? Because everybody's application is different. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. So every reapplicant should spend time focused on different things. Some reapplicants maybe need to focus on the academic piece. Others perhaps need to just get some life experience, a little bit more maturity. Others maybe really need to get some hands-on clinical skills, right? And so what you can always encourage applicants to do is take a look at their entire application, do a thorough review, and again, have that honest conversation with themselves and say, all right, where do I need to improve? What areas are not as strong? And I need to spend time working on that area. So that's the first thing that they should really focus on. Now, as far as talking about being a reapplicant in your application, you don't necessarily have to address that because we're going to see that. We admissions committee, there's like a little indicator that says reapplicant. Now, do we have access to your prior application? Yes. But with 13,000 AMCAS applications, are we going to go through every applicant who reapplied and look at how they've changed their application from one year to the next? No, we don't have the manpower. We don't have the time. But what I think is most important, rather than really addressing it in the application, is just being ready to talk about it in the interview. Because this is where you're going to get questions about, okay, how have you improved your application? What did you spend your time doing the last 12 years between the first time that you applied and the second time? That's more of the way you want to think about being a reapplicant. You don't necessarily, again, have to address it in your application and be like, I think I was unsuccessful because X, Y, and Z. Don't focus on, and you guys don't have to worry about this, but encourage them, don't focus on the negatives, right? Only focus on the positives, but be ready to talk about any of those challenges throughout the interview process. Did that answer your question? Help at all?
Oh yeah, that was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Of course. What else? I was that thorough, guys?
I was gonna say, I think that you knocked it out of the park, and the clarity was just good stuff.
Thank you. You guys are too kind. And thanks for all the nice comments in the chat, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank
This
you
was
so
fun.
much.
Oh, sorry, Willie. I was just going to say this was a fun presentation for me to put together because I've never had the opportunity to really talk to somebody about how to talk to applicants, right? I always just talk to the applicants and I know what I need to talk to them about, but it was kind of cool to think about, okay, what do I need to tell you to tell them? So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do something new.
Thank you for
Hi,
taking it. I
Elvis.
appreciate it.
I have a question really quick, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Alyssa. Hi, great job, by the way. Great presentation. Love it. I wish we had access to this before applying to medical school. Would have been very helpful.
You should have came to my sessions. That's another thing you can tell them. Tell them to come, go to any sessions, info sessions, in person, virtual. That's how they can really learn because these are the things that we talk about in these info sessions. So that's another kind of hint or tidbit, but continue on. What's your question?
I will definitely mention that. I guess I have two questions. One of them, I guess, is how do you view as an admission, part of the admissions committee, people or like applicants who go on like medical missions abroad and typically tend to have more flexibility and freedom to do things that are not clearly suitable for a pre-med student, whether that's like in the OR, for example, opening and closing, tutoring, stuff like that. Obviously it's different country, different regulations and stuff like that, but how do you see an applicant mentioning stuff like that in their application? Do you see that as a red flag or like a good thing to mention?
I think it's maybe just it's neutral. I don't necessarily think it's a red flag because there's still somebody there assisting them, observing them. They're not doing anything illegal. They're in the country, which it is permitted, and they are helping others, right? Now, if you're going rogue and you're doing these things on your own and it is illegal and you're talking about it, then we have a problem, right? So I don't necessarily see it as a red flag, particularly the way you pose the question. What we do, however, consider not a red flag, but we don't particularly love is, and you guys have maybe heard of this term before, voluntourism, right? So it's using volunteer experiences to tour the world, to travel, to do cool things, right? If your entire application is all these medical mission trips and you're going all over the world to these cool locations, it may appear like you are really taking advantage of this opportunity just to kind of travel the world. And again, voluntourism, right? The other thing about that is if all of your healthcare exposure experiences are abroad, then you're not going to understand what it means to be a doctor in America. And you're going to med school in America and you're ideally going to treat patients and be in America, right? As a physician. And so we need to understand, or we need to know that you understand what it means to be a physician in America today, right? And so again, if you have a handful of experiences that you got to go on your medical brigade trip, that's awesome. So many applicants do that. We're not going to see it as a red flag, but you just can't have all of your experiences being that.
Got it. Makes total sense. Speaking of red flags, would you be able to mention some of the very obvious red flags you've seen across your, long years with Rush Medical College? Something that you would look at and see in the application, be like, yeah, no, this person is not coming in, or like,
Gosh,
we're
I
not
mean,
operating again to get into this person.
there's a number of things I could probably list out. But and again, it's, I feel like it should be common sense, but you would be surprised at the things we see. So one thing, I didn't talk about this too much with like the personal statement and the working experiences sections, but even though med students, they're pre-meds, they're not applying to become an author or a writer. And so they don't need to have the most amazing writing skills. They still need to be grammatically correct and be sentences that we can understand and comprehend, right? And so making sure that we're doing our grammar checks, we're doing our spell checks, we're having other people review our application and make sure it makes sense. That can obviously be a red flag. If it's riddled with errors and you're telling me you want to be a surgeon, I'm going to have some serious concerns about your attention to detail and ability to have attention to detail as a surgeon, right? So really encouraging them to have people look at their applications, review it, and make sure that they do those things. Again, I guess a big red flag would be the terrible copy and paste mistake. So don't, in all of your secondaries applying to Rush Medical College, tell me that you really want to go to, XYZ college instead. That would be concerning. Let's see. I think another thing that's just kind of coming to mind is going back to the way that applicants write about their experiences. While yes, you're selling yourself, and you are trying to put your best foot forward, you do want to kind of walk that thin line of also being humble, right? And so you can't have too many I statements. And so really try and think about, or not you guys, but encourage them to think about the way that they're writing about things and still remaining humble and modest and just not too egocentric, right? So if somebody seems a little too self-absorbed, a little too egotistical, that could be concerning. Obviously anything that's unethical, illegal, those would be big red flags. A question I'll get a lot, red flags, might be when students talk about any of their getting in trouble on campus, academic dishonesty, write-ups, that sort of thing, right? So I'll be honest with you guys, we see so many applicants that will have at least, one experience where they got in trouble for maybe having alcohol in their dorm, right? Or, they were in the male dormitory when they shouldn't have been after hours, right? And they're a female. So things like that happen on college campuses. We're not going to hold that against you. Now, if you have 6 or 7 of those same issues on your application, that's going to look like, a pattern of behavior, and that you can't follow rules, you can't learn from your mistakes, you don't care about the rules, right? So that would be a big red flag too. But if somebody has, one thing on their application, that's fine. Trying to think what else. Those are some big ones that come to mind. I'm sure, I could probably think of tons of things that I've seen that people have done that I'm like, that's questionable, but just, make sure that they use common sense.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Anything else,
Any
guys?
other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Alyssa. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we all really appreciate knowing, what goes on the other end and just demystifying the whole um, admissions process. So I appreciate it. We're now just going to move on to the structure of how this will all work. Alyssa, you are more than welcome to stick around, but I also know that you probably had a long day. So if you want to say bye, then you totally could. Um, but yeah.
I'm kind of curious, so I'll hang on for
Okay,
5
yeah, for sure.
minutes.
All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so it's very, very simple. This will also be included in the email that we send out, but basically a weekly email will be sent out with the Google Sheet, and that's where you're going to sign up um, a session or like to review someone's um, personal statement or activity section. So we already have 3 people signed up. We like just sent out, the application, so we're expecting a lot more. But yeah, you're just going to put your name down in the reviewer section, and then after that, you'll go back to here, and then you're going to reach out to the student. So this can either be through email or phone. You're just going to let them know that someone's going to be reviewing their draft. Please, when you reach out to the students, include your name, just confirm what you will be editing, whether it's their personal statement or experience section, as well as the type of edit that they requested. So make sure that, you are editing for content and not like mistakenly editing for like, doing some like line edit or editing for grammar and spelling and whatnot. And then also please include when you'll have the edits done for them. So try not to have them done like in more than a week. I think, especially as crunch time comes around, if you don't think that you can return it to them like within a week, then um, it might be better to like wait till you can turn it around a little bit faster. Um, and then a list of your availability for like a 30-minute one-on-one session. You don't necessarily have to use the whole time. But although those sessions are primarily for reviewing, their personal statements and their activity section, I think that would also be a great time to do some advising or answer any questions that they have. And you can always refer to Alyssa's presentation, which I'll also. Um, so during the one-on-one sessions, so these can either be in person or virtual. So you'll just be responsible for setting up the session, picking the place, setting up the Zoom meeting, all that good stuff. If you need help with that, then you can always reach out to me. Um, Drafts should be sent to your student before your scheduled sessions. That way they at least have some time to look over the draft and, come up with any questions that they might have or just any sort of points of clarification they might need. And then in the last 5 minutes of the session, we're just going to ask that you have your students complete this feedback form. So this is just to help us figure out any areas of improvement, any areas that are like actually great for them, just so that we can collect it for our own information and yeah, make sure that we're doing the work that we're hoping to do. Yeah, and that's essentially it. I'll also send out another follow-up email. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen. But any questions for me at all? Oh, okay. Um, in that case, yeah, that is the end of the meeting. We did not use the whole time, so sorry about that. Oh, thank you. Sweet.
Thanks
All
for
right.
joining, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so much for setting this up, Willie.
Of course. Now I'm gonna figure out to stop recording. Okay, there we go.